Happy to be here today. I know I got to, meet some folks at League, and I did stop by the LPSC a couple weeks ago as well. And it's exciting to see all the engagement we're starting to get with our science community. So, we're really excited, of course, to go back. And as Sam mentioned, the Artemis 2 crew announcement last week. Sorry, yesterday. So. Let's go on to these slides. Next slide, please, Sam. So we get asked a number of times about, the South Pole. Why the South Pole? I think Jack has some, great information he's, trying to share with us on alternate areas and such as well. There are definitely some technical the decision was made number after lots of consideration and lots of reviews. There is some good science interest there, but it also, from a technical standpoint, where our orbit is going to be and all the requirements and design aspects when it comes to building out that mission and those vehicles. You have to start way in advance. And so we needed to make that decision early to start laying out the infrastructure. So back in 2019, Vice President Pence spoke about the National Space Council coming together with that recommendation that NASA and Congress accepted, and we're moving forward from there. So, this was not a grab out of the sky. This was after lots and lots of consideration and lots of cons. And we're looking forward to all the great science. And we know we're also assessing non-South Pole, North Pole. There's going to be continuing discussions there as well of how can we maximize getting some good science data across the lunar surface. So for Artemis 3, like we're talking today, it is focused on the South Pole. Next slide. We also get asked a lot about NRHO, or some of us like to simplify the name of it to the Gateway Orbit. So again, years and years of assessment went on there. That also went into Orion's capabilities and how Gateway is being designed, but it allowed us to maximize those access points to the South Pole. It also provides a very fuel efficient, cost effective way of keeping things in a nice balanced orbit between the Earth and the Moon's gravitational poles. So it allows for less reboost and massaging of the orbit so that gateway and other performance of our vehicles is managed well. So as we look at this orbit, there's tons and tons of analysis that goes into that over the years, and including those access points on the lunar surface to do some great science, but also in all of the vehicle designs and contingencies and aborts and trajectory analysis. That's years and years of iterative work. Next slide. We got to introduce the CASSA team across Artemis site selection analysis leadership. All of us were pretty much there at the League. Y'all have met Dr. Jake Bleacher many times, Mr. Brad Bailey, Dr. Sarah Noble, Jonathan Bowie. So we come together and work with all of our technical teams. So you'll hear from Brian here shortly, that is part of the larger team there with the site availability assessments that our HLS team works with our SpaceX friends when it comes to the Artemis 3 specific mission analysis. So we also have mission availability, or Maya, when you've looked at the Artemis 1 launch or going into the Artemis 2 mission, you'll see these trajectory maps that are out there in the public. The Maya team helps provide those. It's a very big end-to-end process when we look at stacking up, our SLS, Orion, HLS, and then in further missions, the Gateway modules. So it's a big team effort that you'll see, our Science Mission Directorate and our Science Technology Mission Directorate also included in that. It's very much a cross agency and a larger team effort. And it's part of why we're here today to continue engaging our science community for getting those figures of merit of where we'd like to go to in our site selections as we move forward. Next slide. So I mentioned the mission availability. It's a very multi-dimensional challenge. Again, you got that launch performance, the transit shadowing of the Earth. Got to make sure our solar arrays are illuminated. That transit performance, rendezvous communications, and site availability. So we've set up these processes very iteratively to go through these things as we learn about vehicle design through the years of development and meeting those requirements and such. So it's important that folks continue to understand that it's going to be a developing process. So there's definitely distinct constraints that we need to make sure we incorporate when we're planning human exploration compared to science missions. So our astronaut safety, of course, is number one. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the iterative process. So the CASSA leaders, we help manage this process through our mission analysis cycles. We go through a cycle approximately once a year, starting about L-5 years out. And we're going to continue to iterate for Artemis 3 specifically. So you got to hear from us over the summer, narrowing down to those 13 regions. We're going to continue to iterate on what those regions are looking like when it comes to emission availability and site availability, and start to try to prioritize those regions and then narrow down to specific sites. We won't be done this summer. We have, a ways to go yet, so we narrow down to the final sites. But what we're hoping to start doing with this community is, as we narrow down to those final sites, learning from y'all what some good figures of merit and objectives are from a science perspective in those sites and regions. So we look forward to gathering that information from you and utilizing that as we go forward in our site selection process.